Hello and welcome to another MR podcast. What he did, IIT his bachelor's, IISc his PhD. Then he also, what's the name? Postgraduate school? Bachelor school? What was it? Cut.
Metallurgical engineering, people might be aware of it. I'll just give a gist about it. It's all about metals and alloys, how you make, and the science behind the solid state metals and materials. We try to understand already existing material and then try to produce new synthetic material according to things. So first thing is like understand already existing things, which is always the science nature. You try to understand the nature. That's how science evolved. So what I worked in during my thesis, like diffusion in solids, specifically metals and alloys.
Today with me is Rajaji, and he's from, I think you have watched the earlier podcast. We explained very precisely what he did. If not, what he did, IIT his bachelor's, IISc his PhD. Then he also teach like 2 years in his university. What was the name? Postgraduate school? Bachelor school? What was it? Cut. Okay, he will tell. That's what you did, no? Bachelor's in IIT?
No, master's in IIT.
Master in IIT.
From same college as Coimbatore. The same college I went and worked.
Don't cut it. Just put it in there so people know how closely I listen to my podcast. So the bachelor's, yeah.
I'm bachelor's from Coimbatore PhD Tech and master's from IIT. So after master's, I went back to my bachelor's college. I worked as an assistant professor for 2.5 years.
Okay, now I know. He speaks very fast. That shows his genius. That's why he was in IIT and IISc. Okay, so today we are going to be discussing about few things. The scope of the metallurgy engineering in Germany, since he is like a pro in that. Before that, if you haven't watched our previous video, where we discussed about the why IIT or IISc's people, students don't move to Germany, and why they should, then you should watch the previous podcast. I will post the link in the description somewhere. But before that, after that, we go directly to the point. Rajaji, what is the scope of metallurgy engineering in Germany? Why laughing? Okay, that's a serious discussion.
It's going to be a really fun interview.
I think so too. Okay.
It should be.
It should be. That's what it.
No need to be like stressed.
Chill.
Metallurgical engineering, people might be aware of it. I'll just give a gist about it. It's all about metals and alloys, how you make, and the science behind the solid state metals and materials, which includes polymers and ceramics sometimes. So they make it as a bigger forum like materials, science and engineering. So what I studied is like only the metallurgical engineering, half of it. Now it's like everyone is like including everything like metals and materials, included everything, including your shirt to chauffeur to building
it's
material.
Not very specific field. It's like a very broad.
It's very, very wide and very science oriented department, I would say.
Okay, so the scope is more toward the research or
yeah. This department has historically scope is like more towards the research oriented. The reason is like we try to understand already existing material and then try to produce new synthetic material according to things. So first thing is like understand already existing things, which is always the science nature. You try to understand the nature. That's how science evolved. So the department's very wide spectrum in that way, like metals and alloys, polymers and ceramics. If you put in together, everything comes into the picture. Okay, when I started, it is a metals and alloys, which is like typically people know steel. Steel is the one which is widely used or widely consumed material throughout the world, which was the predominantly metallurgy oriented, which you can get into the job. Tata Steel, SR Steel, or any steel companies which in India is there, you can directly go after undergraduate.
Okay.
And aluminum alloys also, which comes into the same picture, like aircraft frames and whatever the materials, which is lightweight materials you need. These are like aluminum alloys also needed to be explored further. Now these are like improved with a composite material, which will be like polymers and sometimes resins metal mixed polymers and
Yeah,
composites.
doping as well. I can
Yeah,
say.
yeah. So all sorts of things will be done.
I think I throw over doping and I sound smart. Yeah.
Okay, I should describe a bit about my thesis, so you people may get bored about it, but still I'll just give it for 1 or 2 minutes. I'll quickly
Sure,
finish
sure,
it.
sure.
So what I worked in during my thesis, like diffusion in solids, specifically metals and alloys. Okay, diffusion, people may think like, what is diffusion? Something is diffusing into something. I can give a simple example like coffee. What we are doing is like coffee things are mixed into the water.
Right.
So it's a mixing things. So similarly, in the case of solid state metals, atoms diffuses each other so that it reacts and it forms a chemical reactions. Whatever you might be saying, like you dope it. That doping happens to the material.
Yeah.
You add 1 or 2 atoms. What atoms create into it? Those reactions are like controlled by the diffusion process.
Cool.
So to understand the diffusion, that is what my thesis, which I was worked on, a little bit tricky. So it's fine. And presently, whatever I'm working in the postdoctorate, this is the best diffusion school one can get it actually globally, because diffusion study we deposit something to trace. Let's say in the case of pure metal means like pure nickel. You take it off entirely, and nickel atoms are there.
Yeah.
In the pure nickel atom, does it diffuse each other? Yes.
It does.
Yeah.
I knew
We see the solid metal as a solid, but inside that atoms will each other change.
Of course,
exchange
it will
positions.
change.
So that's what the diffusion is all about. But you cannot trace that atoms. Basically, this information, until unless you do the material science stuff, people may not even think.
I know, because I did chemical engineering, and like I know what diffusion is, but you are like on some extra next level shit, because you're doing
liquid and gaseous. It's easy.
Yeah,
we can easily connect it.
But with solids,
molecules and it will be moving faster.
Yeah.
In gas, you can easily connect it. When you say diffusion, it is really happening.
Because mobility is higher. In
Yep.
Yeah, throwing the word and it matches.
Mobility is also related to the moving things, right?
Yeah.
So in the solid, you won't be able to even realize, like in the solid state, what is atoms are, how it is moving. It is actually crystalline state, but it does move, but it's very, very, very slow.
So it's true. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
Cool. Wow.
So to trace this self diffusion, what we does is actually radioisotope use. So when you put the radioisotope, that activity will keep on decreasing. You can trace that particular atom. The radioisotope, you can trace it so that how far it is moved. That's how we measure the self diffusion.
That is so cool.
This technique is old technique, but 70 years old technique still.
That is still pretty cool.
So this is the tracer diffusion school which I am working presently. What I worked was not tracer diffusion, which was like interdiffusion, so something like that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining also for the podcast.
Too much technical also.
Yeah, too much technical stuff. But I really enjoyed doing this podcast with you. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. It was quite informative. And I really hope that your research goes to some really higher extent. And thank you so much again for joining.
Thank you.
So this was Rajaji from IISc and IIT.
Right now, Institute of Material Physics, University of Munster.
Yes, and University of Munster. And signing out from Munster City, this is your boy, MR. Okay, that's some really like British level shit. Muni Brana podcast. Bye.
Bye-bye.